Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the We Know Traitors podcast over here on RHAP. I'm your host, the Duke of Deception, Pooya Vakili, ready to talk about yet another person here for today on the road to the Traitors US Season 4. January 8th is the date we are seeking, but we have a journey to get there through. And today, my oh my, do we have a journey to get through together? Okay. And this is one, sometimes when there's a turbulent journey, you need a comforting person with you to hold your hand, to comfort you, to snacks you need, and just make sure you're having a good time and you can get through it. I needed someone to help me get through this. It was the one and only, the irreplaceable Mike Bloom joining me today to talk about Michael Rapaport. Michael, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Certainly happy to be your flight attendant through this rather turbulent journey. They say
I'll take a double.
Exactly.
Take a double.
They say you can't misspell Rapaport without RHAP. So I think it only makes sense that we RHAP about Rapaport.
You can, because the H is missing. Okay, the H is missing, Mike. But yeah, we're here to talk about someone who I think, for the reactions I saw when this person got cast, this was probably the biggest, like, what are we doing here casting. I feel like almost everyone else that was cast was either a, I get it, or oh my god, I can't believe they got it, that's so sick, I'm excited to see them. This was kind of the what casting.
Yes, but because I think if you're talking specifically in the general realm of society, yes. And let's just put out a blanket statement. Not only right here, right now, Pooya, but not to put words in your mouth, I imagine is going to play out over the course of the next few months. Michael Rapaport is perhaps most infamously known in today's pop culture sphere for saying and posting a number of very controversial and inflammatory things. I do not want to go into those specifics because I do not want to platform those things. You can check online. There are, to quote a Real Housewife, there are receipts about everything that he has said, about all the beliefs that he has. I think it's safe to say, both in this podcast and Pooya's fantastic coverage of season 4 in general, when we are talking about him, we are in no way condoning these beliefs or these opinions that he has. I think these are things that we certainly at least disagree with the majority of, but we have to talk about him. He is a cast member on the Traitors season 4 for however long it is. And look, Michael Rapaport once talked about the fact, he talks a lot about the housewives, Pooya, and he said one of the things is that he is able to, quote, separate church and state, of the housewives, the person, versus the housewives, the character on the TV show. And so I think it'd only be proper that we try our own hands at the Michael Rapaport philosophy and talk about him as a Traitors player versus perhaps your misgivings about him as a person.
Right. I mean, look, the reality of the situation is, once episode 1, 2, and 3 air January 8th, every person that is in that castle is a player on the Traitors season 4. They are going to make decisions that are going to impact their game. They're going to make decisions that are going to impact other people's games. They're going to argue. They're going to yell. I will be talking and focusing on talking about things that are happening within that castle, whilst you now have been prefaced and know how we feel, how I feel about the stuff that is going on outside of the castle. So, and ultimately, at the end of the day, the show must go on. Like, there's, nothing else that can be done besides talking about this show and making sure that y'all get the best possible coverage you can of the Traitors US, which is what we're going to be doing moving forward.
So, let's go back to the butt of my previous statement, which is the fact that, yes, you might think, like, who is this guy, both from an Audacity perspective, but the fact that, yes, he has starred in a number of properties, has certainly made a consistent career for himself on television. He's a comedian as well, has even appeared, in some music videos too. But I think largely the reason why he is here is because of his role within the larger NBC Universal umbrella and the Andy Cohen of it all.
Yes.
Mike Rapaport is a Bravo talking head, essentially. He is not a Bravo leb, but I guess he is a Bravo leb in that he talks consistently about Bravo lebs. He is one of the biggest recurring guests on Watch What Happens Live. He's probably appeared on there upwards of like 30 times over the course of years upon years. He absolutely, I wouldn't even say loves, but loves to talk about The Real Housewives. He's talked about Vanderpump Rules. He's talked about a bunch of Bravo shows in the past. He's had his own segment called the Rapaport, Pooya, where he just goes off in his own little corner about the drama going on the Housewives this week. He has hosted panels at BravoCon. So it's clear that obviously due to the connection that Peacock has with the larger NBC Bravo network at large, I could see a world where they decide like, okay, this is one of the most outspoken celebrities about one of our, biggest demos, one of our biggest casting pools, which is the Housewives. It could make sense to bring him in proper.
Yeah, I think that I think also it's a very unique spot because most of his credentials come from not housewives. He has been, to me, I've known him as Phoebe's boyfriend on
Yep.
Friends.
Oh yeah.
And Don Self from Prison Break. Those are the two spots I know him from. And so the fact that, and I think I agree with you, I think that's why he's cast, right? Is this connection he has with the housewives, his takes there. He's shown that he's willing to argue, be shady during these segments. So having him those are skills that'll translate well for entertainment on the Traitors at the round table. So I think that's why he is there.
Yeah. So we even get a little bit of a shade of that. Of course, at the time we are talking, we have the privilege of getting to have watched like the quote unquote official trailer for the Traitors season 4. And there is a moment where Michael Rapaport at the round table says, "We are here to capture dirty, deceitful, deceptive traitors." And I think that is one of the main facets to take away from the enigma that is Michael Rapaport. He has the tact of a bulldozer. This is a man who is a self-proclaimed loudmouth.
Yes.
Has some very brazen opinions. He has a 2017 book, Pooya, called "This Book Has Balls: Sports Rants from the MVP of Talking Trash." This is a guy who fundamentally believes when it comes to reality TV and, again, very much rooted in the Housewives, but basically this idea that like reality TV should exist as sort of a hub of conflict and comedy and ridiculous moments and drama. And so I think it only makes sense that in his first actual attempt to become a reality star himself, that whether he believes it or not, that is the element that he is going to at least attempt to bring to the castle. Subtlety is he has a restraining order against subtlety. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I don't think, we talk about a lot. First of all, I think he's going to end up being a faithful here. I think we talk a lot about different types of faithfuls and how a lot of people's default to being a faithful is like kind of be quiet, try and hide a little bit, maybe not speak as much. And then we have people who don't want to speak because they don't want to be loud and wrong. I think Michael Rapaport has zero issue with being loud and zero issue with being wrong. I think as long as he's buying what he's selling, he's going to yell it off the rooftops, which means, again, that is why I could see them picking someone like this to be at the castle.
Yes. And so we also see, to your point, a moment from after a challenge where he's yelling, "Shame on you." I think he is really going to try to be at least attempting to fill the shoes of faithful of the faithful, right? I think he's really going to be Mr. Like, my assumption from that moment, not to take like too much of a gander into a slice of pie, is that he's like yelling at someone for like taking the selfish way out and going for a shield instead of putting money into the pot, right? That feels like a classic example of like, you're playing an individual game. That's real traitorous activity instead of contributing to the group. I feel like Michael Rapaport is going to be very much for that, of like, I'm just trying to help us all out here. He's got the pilgrim hat going on, ready for the witch hunt. And I guess the biggest question is, Pooya, I mean, controversial casting is something that's not new to the Traitors. I think there's a direct connection, in my opinion, between Rapaport's casting this season and Tom Sandoval's last season, where I think Sandoval, they did take a bit of a big risk in being like, this is a guy that is hated by anyone who knows his name. Let's see what we can do. But that's about where the comparisons between Sandoval and Michael Rapaport end. Because I think that, between what we saw of him in the show and what I've sort of gleaned from what the players were talking about, like Sandoval was not an aggressive person. Maybe the exception being that really out-of-pocket comment about how women make better traitors. But like, that is not what Rapaport is going to do. He is someone who, at his quietest volume, is still about as loud as a megaphone. And so I think he's going to come in there guns blazing, consistently firing. I guess the question is, if you're a traitor, is this a big shield for you, or is this just too big of a nuisance for everybody at large?
This has come up on a couple of the previews. The idea that, well, why would they ever murder Michael Rapaport? Because if he's going to be loud, if he's going to be up in front, you gotta imagine he's someone people will want to, like, will eventually push out at the round table. And I think I agree with that thought. I don't see the traitors murdering him unless he's being loud about one of them. Then I could 100% see them doing that, because the alternative is you keep him in there because he is prime candidate to be a faithful that gets cut because, yeah, we don't even think he's a traitor. He's just a horrible faithful. Get him out of here. Like, I truly think that could be the fate here for Michael. And I just, it wouldn't surprise me. I think that a murder, unless it's like night one, which I feel like based off the fact that we've seen him in 2 different preview segments on the trailer, I don't think he's a night one murder. Because I think once he starts speaking, if he starts being like, all he needs is to be loud and wrong about one person, they'll keep him in. They have no incentive to get rid of him after that.
Yeah, but I think that the bigger risk, as you said, is going to lie with being banished, where it is this idea of you are just a giant obstacle at this point to us actually getting anything done. Any type of discussion we try to have, you try to bring it back to your incorrect point as to who may be a traitor. So I could see, honestly, a world where he gets kicked out first just for low-key annoying people. And that we talk about this all the time in these social strategy shows. Like, yes, there is a utility to keeping those players around, especially in a show like The Traitors where they have so much power. But like, sometimes if you're annoying, your strategic value just directly is inverse to the social value that you bring. Like, we'll get into this with the rest of the cast. Like, I can't see many people connecting with this man. And so if they feel like they can't necessarily use him as a number, one side or the other, what use does he have?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely also an argument to be made. I mean, it all comes down to, who do we see siding with him? Do we see him having allies? And if so, are those influential allies? Are they more so followers for him? It really ends up, that's going to end up deciding and dictating a lot of where that ends up going. And I'm very curious to see it, because I feel like last season we had seen this little snippet of the first, like, what was it, 3 minutes of the game, where we saw the twist come up about, hey, someone's gonna get pulled from the game here. And my theory was, well, we just saw someone talk about how, oh, they don't like Tom Sandoval. It's gonna be Tom Sandoval. They don't want to play with him. Not only did that not happen, Tom Sandoval basically made the finale. Like, was very close to getting all the way there. And I think that while I do agree that the casting choice can be looked at as this is the similar casting choice here, but I think that the difference is that, like you said, Tom Sandoval was loud and wrong, but Tom Sandoval didn't have, like, in his words, there was not this like tinge of personal, like, I do not care for you. I could see Michael making an enemy and being like, I do not care for you. And people be like, this is beyond the game. I can't handle this. Like, this is too much. Leave. So I definitely could see that being something that happens here. Again, it's going to be very hard to predict without us knowing, does he have allies? Where are the allies? And so on.
So to that point, let's talk about probably one of the most famous moments that is affiliated with Michael Rapaport and the larger NBC Universal umbrella, which is during one of his many appearances on Watch What Happens Live. He was brought on as a guest alongside Real Housewives of Atlanta star Kenya Moore. And again, Michael loves to mouth off on social media, loves to mouth off in person as well, but particularly on social media. And he, had disagreed with something that had happened to Kenya. I think she had said that Portia Williams, was bullying her for an incident that had occurred. And he had said that, she was deserved to get her wig snatched, essentially. In social media, Kenya replied that he was, quote, pathetic and ignorant. And then obviously the tension was simmering when they were in person. Michael had tried to say, like, I said that, and then I tried to approach her and, like, meet her. And he's trying to, again, establish his position on reality TV, which is like, Kenya, I'm sure you're a lovely person, but on the show, you're a villain. And Kenya did not take very kindly to that. She glibly responded, Michael, I don't need you to tell me what I am and what I am not. Thank you for watching. Keep the cable on. And then Michael got a little fiery. He then responds with, "You wish you were me, Kenya." And she comes back with, "A middle-aged fat white guy and out of work? No." So that is something that made a lot of the rounds, and even more so, unfortunately, where Michael Rapaport followed up that appearance by posting on his Instagram a picture of a gorilla.
Yeah.
Again, we are
Mhm.
not condoning his behavior at all, but that is, I think, a good sign of not only his sort of like philosophy to all of this, but as you mentioned, I think his capacity to get into arguments and go pretty low, which everyone sort of has that line, even on a show like The Traitors.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that definitely that's something we do see happen. Sometimes we see people feel personally attacked or something is a lot more personal than it ends up being. But with Michael, I wouldn't be surprised if it's felt personal because it is personal. And that's going to be very tough to get through. Now, Mike, let's look at the rest of the cast here alongside
Yes.
him. Now, you mentioned Michael has this connection with the Housewives universe. And so are there connections that are had between him and some of the Housewives in this universe, in this season?
Yes. So I took one for the team and combed through a bunch of Rapaport segments because Michael has, surprise, surprise, either had direct contact with, talked shit about, or both about some of the housewives that are on this specific
Mm-hmm.
season. We will start with Dorinda. Michael did an appearance with Dorinda on Watch What Happens Live, where he called her the bully of Bravo. He said it with love, though. He basically said, like, this one season, like, you say, make it nice. You weren't very nice. It's tough to read Dorinda's body language in response to that. They did this virtually because of COVID. So, like,
Uh-huh.
it's always tough to see, like, she sort of took it on the chin in the moment, but, like, was she secretly pissed off that he was called? Because that's the thing as well, is like, I think Michael has this ability to trash talk, A, because he's a self proclaimed loudmouth, and B, because, again, he is sort of regarding this. We see this all the time, Pooya, right? When it comes to fans criticizing reality TV characters on social media, they see them specifically as characters and not as people. I think what's going to be really interesting in general is when it comes to these types of statements, how many of them do acknowledge, like, okay, yes, you're saying this in response to my role on Roni, versus like, did you just call me a bully?
Yeah, so I'm curious because I feel like Dorinda also is coming in with a little bit of her own already existing storyline, this being her second attempt at playing. So I'm very curious if that even is something that A, Dorinda remembers, or B, Dorinda cares about. So we'll see.
Well, someone who certainly remembers and cares about an interaction between them and Michael Rapaport is Candace. So,
Okay.
Candace sent a tweet out about Michael Rapaport, calling him a, quote, melty-faced dingleberry.
Oh my God.
And then Michael Rapaport, I don't know what show he was on. It seemed like he was on his own sort of like Wendy Williams-esque talk show.
Okay.
Talked about this, the fact that Candace tweeted at him, and he said, listen, I could punch back, but I just wanted to congratulate her on the release on her low-budget album. Shout out to the one person who downloaded it. So I think if there is anyone, not to spoil the other two, but to have bad blood with Michael Rapaport directly, it will be Candace.
Okay. Okay, so that's gonna be fun because everything I've heard about Candace also, I feel like that's gonna be tension at the round table.
Let's talk about Lisa Rinna. I don't believe Michael has had any direct interaction with Lisa, but Lisa was perhaps controversially kicked off of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills back in 2023. Something that Michael Rapaport was distraught about. The day the news
Oh.
came out, he posted a TikTok saying it was a sad day. And I believe he talked on another podcast about her presence, saying, quote, she has annoyed me, she has frustrated me, she has infuriated me at times. But when I'm able to separate church and state, again, his philosophy,
Oh,
like any
there you go.
smart Real Housewives of Beverly Hills television fan, I was able to separate the fact that we need her to drive you nuts. We need her to make you angry. So again, it could be taken one of two ways, depending on how Lisa feels, of like, that could be seen as slander, that he is saying she drives me nuts. Or again, he's trying to say it, at least in an oddly perverted complimentary way as to the role that she provides and what he believes is a necessary, provocational element of reality TV.
Okay, so before I ask my next question, has he said anything about Portia?
Yes. So
Okay.
Portia is the only one that I would say he's like relatively positive on. Though again, I think he believes what he said about Lisa and Dorinda are compliments. But I believe it was last fall it was announced that Portia and Traitors fan favorite Phaedra Parks would be returning to the Real Housewives of Atlanta. And Michael Rapaport's response, thank goodness. He missed Portia. He was very happy that she would be returning to the show. Should also be noted, I'm sure you have covered this in your other previews. I believe Portia and Candace have some bad blood between them. I think they made up on Ultimate Girls Trip, but now they are off on the on-off relationship. So
Mhm.
could also be a bit of like the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And if there was one housewife I think that could give him a bit of a sympathetic ear, it would be Portia.
Okay. Yeah, that might be the ally for him then potentially. Because I guess like what I was about to ask was, do you think Michael is going to try and work with the housewives, or do you think Michael is not going to want to work with the housewives?
I think he will want to,
Okay.
perhaps to his detriment, because I think that these are the most familiar people to him. What's interesting is that I checked out, or I should say, I saw the backlog of his podcast. I think it's called like Reality Rapaport, and he has watched the show before. This is not necessarily him being introduced
Okay.
into something, or maybe he was like already in talks of casting for season 4, but he did cover some of season 3. Maybe it was Sandoval that brought him in, but he has watched the show before. But I don't know if he's watched Survivor. I don't know if he's watched Big Brother. I don't know if he's watched Love Island. So I don't think he would seek those people out in particular. So I would absolutely see him going for the most familiar thing he knows and the people he feels he has rapport with, which are the housewives.
Okay. So then so then that's the people he's going to gravitate towards. Now, based on vibe, who else do you see from the cast that he could gel with or work with?
I feel like him and Rob Roush for some reason. Like, I feel like I don't know Rob terribly well, but I think he could be somebody that would be like a silent consenter to the random opinions that Michael Rapaport has. I don't know if like Michael is the type that like will pursue a bromance necessarily, like some of the other guys that we have been talking about. Him and Ron could also connect. They're both in the comedy scene. I think they're going to have exact opposite approaches to this game, but like I would imagine they're at least familiar with each other, if not outright know
Mhm.
each other as well.
Yeah, and outside of the housewives, can you name one or two people that you think he could new beefs, new clashes for Michael?
I'm clocking this right here, right now. The second, when, not if, when Michael Rapaport puts his foot in his mouth, Monet Exchange will be there to shove the heel further back into the back of his throat. I think Monet, it's weird to say much like Michael, but also an incredibly outspoken person. And I think
Mhm.
that Monet probably has a little bit of the tea as to some of the things that Michael has said online that she may or may not agree with. And so if I'm thinking of people who will non-housewives who will be specifically the most vocal against Michael Rapaport, I could 100% see Monet Exchange not be afraid to clock someone that she sees as just an asshole. Again, you have watched sibling rivalry. Bob the drag queen, also somebody that can call someone out if she needs to. And Monet is very similar in that she is not afraid to start smoke, especially with someone that she feels is incredibly wrong.
Yeah, I would have definitely had Monet as my pick also here. Um, Mike, is there anything else you want to talk about with regards to Michael Rappaport here before we wrap up?
The last thing I will say that perhaps represents the tact that Michael Rapaport may bring to the castle is that on June 19th, 2017, Michael Rapaport announced that he would be joining the sports satire website Barstool Sports, where he would be
Okay.
serving as a correspondent on Pardon My Take. Less than 1 year later, he was fired from Barstool Sports after making a rude comment towards their fan base. It says a lot. If you are let go from Barstool Sports, That's what I'll say about that. And who knows? Maybe he will defy the odds. Maybe he will be able to tamp down on his more provocative opinions, on his ability to, speak out and speak his mind. And maybe that means that he'll be able to slip under the radar long enough. We certainly have seen plenty of these past seasons involve, some of the least gamery types of celebs make it really far. This is where we mentioned Lord Ivar for the umpteenth time because they're just not suspected in either really big direction. I cannot imagine that is Michael Rapaport. I do not know if a tiger changes his stripes, and I do not know if Michael Rapaport changes a plaid shirt.
Yeah, we'll see. My expectations are very low. So I don't know if I see it, if I think my expectation could be met on this one. I feel like I don't see Michael making it that far into the game. My prediction is within by the second week. So by episode 5 is the ceiling that I think Michael's going to be there for.
All right, right now, who is on your short list of first banished? Not murdered, banished. And how high is Michael on that list?
Oh, he's high. I think he might be if I had 100 chips to distribute on a bet, I think I would be comfortable putting 80 on Michael. That's kind of where I am, but that's also off no context, off nothing. Last season, I would have had 80 on Tom Sandoval.
That's true.
So it's kind of like the chalk pick, if you will, but I just don't see that personality gelling with everyone else, especially if it starts feeling like it's a lot less game and a lot more just heat. It's like, well, we don't want that energy here.
Yeah, I think sometimes even if you are utilizing the shield, if the shield's hurting your hand, maybe let go. Maybe grab a different shield, perhaps literally or from an asset perspective. So again, happy to be wrong. Happy for him to impress this season. Happy for him to entertain. Given from my perspective, the previous body of work and the personality that we see on display through countless number of these Bravo and Bravo adjacent pieces, I think much like that bird outside Phoebe's window, his chances of winning will be shut down fairly quickly.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Mike, this was not going to be an easy task. I'm not going to lie to you. Full disclosure, this is, I have one more left to do after this one, but this was scheduled to be the last one of the journey here. And needless to say, the fact that we're about 30 minutes in and it felt seamless is a testament to how good you are at navigating any topic, in my humble opinion.
Thank you. I think it more so speaks to just how much of a loudmouth I am, which is why I'm able to talk about it, a fellow Michael loudmouth, but I appreciate that. And kudos to you, man. I love this process. I love when you kicked it off last year, considering, as I always say, the Super Smash Brothers element of all these people from all these different worlds being brought in under the canopy of a Scottish castle. It's a great way to get to know these people and see how their background informs a lot of the way they approach things. And listen, sometimes the backgrounds are a little more unsavory than others, but fantastic time joining you always. Not deceptive to say, I always enjoy a sit down with the Duke of Deception.
Hey, and it is always my pleasure to have you here to sit with. Now, Mike, let the people know where they can find you and what projects you'll be working on whenever this comes out.
Yeah, so at a Mike Bloom type for anything and everything, and I'm podcasting about anything and everything, but I guess the one main thing I'll highlight right now is that I'm assuming this is going to be coming out either the end of December, beginning of January. Regardless, I am taking a page out of the book of this fine man that I'm talking to right now, because of course Survivor 50 is coming up, featuring its own cavalry of perhaps contentious celebrity guests, as we discovered only a few days ago. But sort of similar to what Pooya is doing, I imagine that there's going to be Survivor fans who need a reminder of the old schoolers or haven't watched the new era season. So I'm doing something very similar to what Pooya is doing here. Every day I'm going to be with a podcaster or someone from the community talking about a player, what you need to know, some of their highlights, perhaps lowlights, and what that means for Survivor 50. So expect that in your feed soon. Otherwise, I will also be covering the Traitors over on Parade. Very excited for that. Hoping to provide some interviews, especially with this wildcast all season long. But regardless, I cannot wait for this thing to freaking happen, because it seems like, again, we've been dreaming for so long, and now we finally snap awake in the middle of the night, and we shall see what's provided the next morning.
Yeah, we are so close. I feel like this has been the longest off-season journey to a trader season yet. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Rob is on it, and we have been waiting to see how this plays out. But we're getting there, one day at a time, one player preview at a time. We're making that happen. Of course, y'all can find me on all socials at Pooyaism, twitch.tv/Pooya. That's where I'm going to be when I'm not podcasting. Also talking with Liana every week over on the Pooya and Liana Lounge, talking 90 Day over on the Hot Mess Express. So make sure you're tuned into those. If you're looking for more Traitors content, make sure you're subscribed to this feed because I'm going to be talking Traitors UK starting January 1st as well. So we got the old double dose in January, always.
I love it, though. I've said it time and time again, but I really do feel like Traitors UK and US, yes, it's a lot at once, but they really do feel like two sides of the same coin, where Traitors UK is all civilians. It's a little more grounded. It's a little more emotionally weighted, but it's still full of a lot of high stakes as well, because like you feel like people are really investing their full selves into their reality TV debut. Traitors US, I absolutely love it, but it's a little more over the top, right? It's featuring people that know the camera, that can create these personas. So it's a little more high art, right? It's a little more OTT. And that's what I love about it. So depending on the flavor that you want, I do really encourage you to watch both if you can, because I think it is able to provide two very separate elements that I love about the show.
Yeah, I would say UK is a little more raw, just simply because of the fact that when some of them react to you think I'm a traitor, you can tell they're insulted. Like they're hurt that you think this. But the US folk, they know what they're doing. They know this is a game. So like it's a lot more like that, but it's very fun. So make sure you're checking out those. If you have time in between this and the season dropping and you want to get into the trader mindset, watch Traitors Canada. Just finished 10 episodes. Good time was had. A lot of podcasts waiting for you there as well. Now, while this may have been one of the last ones I'm recording here, this is not the last one of these you're going to be listening to, because of course tomorrow I'll be back with a brand new player to preview for you. So I hope you had a good time here. I hope you have a good time tomorrow, because I'll see you back here at the turret. Y'all take care. Have a good one. Bye.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.